All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome, everybody. Let's see, we're going to get started soon. I'm just going to wait another, we've only got one more minute. We will wait one more minute until 11:35. Oh, never mind. My clock just rolled over to 11:35. All right. Let's let everyone in. Okay. 20 people so far. That's a good turnout. So welcome to FYSM 1210A. And this is a first-year seminar on consciousness. And I am I am just Josh Redstone. I have a little spiel that I always give to all my students. Don't feel like you have to call me professor. I have a PhD, sure, but I am just an instructor. So there's no need to call me professor. You can call me Dr. Redstone if you want. Yeah, or just Josh. Let's see. Now, just to check, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. And can everyone see my screen here?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So the plan for today is just to kind of get oriented by going over the course outline and by taking a look at some of the material that we're going to be covering this semester, or not taking a look at the material itself, but just sort of iterating through our list. And I will say also that, of course, even though for now the class is online, hopefully we'll be going to in-person classes soon. I really hope, fingers crossed. But in the meantime, these Zoom lectures will be posted to my YouTube channel in case anybody wants to review any of the material. Now, since they're going to be posted there, if you're not comfortable appearing on camera or anything like that, you can just do that thing where Zoom displays your name or just a blank screen or whatever you want. And of course, if you're a little nervous about speaking, you can use the chat function right here, and you can talk to the class that way. I usually read things in the chat out loud when I'm doing things online. So, just so that everybody's cool, everybody's comfortable. That said, I do like to encourage participation because this is a seminar. And starting, I think, the second week, I will actually be taking attendance. And that's meant to be a reflection of who's, not just showing up, but who's also participating. So if you're here, you should also try and ask questions, make comments, don't be shy, basically. I'm just saying, don't be shy. All right, so that said, I would like to go over our course outline with all of you. Of course, this is already available on Brightspace. So I'll just get myself out of the way here. All right, so class information. We all know when class is already, since you're all here. Yes, okay, good. Already got the first question. Yeah, you will be graded on participation. I'll go over the grading breakdown in a moment. So yeah, we have classes on Wednesdays and Fridays, 11:35 to 12:55. This first class probably won't go that long. Because I think it's kind of received wisdom not to teach that much in a first class, right? Because we're all new. Plus, we've got all this weird COVID stuff going on. So I'm sure we're all a little bit brain scrambly right now. So we're initially online. If we do go back to in person, we'll be meeting in the Tory building. So just keep that in mind. Keep this handy. You're all here. This is a first year class. You're all enrolled because you're either in the Faculty of Arts and Social Science, or I believe the Faculty of Public Affairs, which is interesting. I think that's what that stands for. This is all my contact information. Anything to do with assignments, anything official should go through my Carleton email. And that's, of course, right here. And we don't have a TA for this class because this class is very small, so I'll be doing all of the grading. So official important stuff should go through this. Some of my other students, I think I see some familiar faces, some familiar names here. You'll know that I also have my Discord server. And that, which I will discuss in a moment, that's a really good way to get a hold of me in a pinch. Like if you've got a question like, oh yeah, what did Josh say about that assignment? I can't remember, I forgot to write it down. Send me a message on Discord. Usually I answer very quickly. So where can we find the course online on Brightspace? I can't seem to find it. Okay, another question. So sometimes if I can switch my stuff here, so you can see. So just if you can see my screen, if you're on the home page of Brightspace like this, sometimes what you have to do, let's wait for my thing to load. Yeah, sometimes what you have to do is make sure you're on the right, period of time, right? Sometimes like, for example, at first I'm stuck over here on fall 2021 still with my old classes. Well, so I got to go over here, winter, and then there I am. So that may be what's going on. So I would check that. For other stuff with Brightspace, it's probably better to check out like online guides for students that Carleton has posted, because I'm actually still getting used to Brightspace. I used CU Learn for years and years and years. And I'm still getting used to it. So I don't really know all the ins and outs. But Google is there and it has all the answers, doesn't it? So, all right. So that's me, that's my information. So the course description, it's a little wordy. I'm sure you've all read it already. I'll just kind of go over the main points. We're going to be asking what consciousness is in this class, sort of as a group, as a seminar, right? Oh, thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate that. I tried to make it very well organized because, when things are messy, it's just difficult, isn't it? Right? So it's easier for everybody this way, isn't it? But consciousness, why are we going to study consciousness? Well, consciousness is interesting, isn't it? Because on the one hand, consciousness is familiar, right? We're all conscious beings. We're consciousness. We have brains in our heads. The mind is implemented in the brain. It's what the brain does, right? And it's because we have minds that we're conscious, right? Consciousness seems to be a feature of the mind, and we all have minds. Okay, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is we have no idea how any of this actually works. How does this sort of hunk of meat in the head with all these little neural connections firing off all the time, how does that generate a subjective experience of the world where it's where there's something it's like to experience the world? There's something that it's like to be. How does that work? So on the one hand, consciousness is super familiar. Maybe even you might think it's a sort of mundane phenomenon, although I think that as we make our way into this class, if you do think that will soon change. But on the other hand, it's also maybe the most mysterious phenomenon we're trying to contend with at the moment, or at least one of the most mysterious phenomena. Daniel Dennett, a philosopher of mind, in the intro to our textbook, you can read him quoted as saying that, consciousness is just about the last surviving mystery. I don't know if it's the last surviving mystery, but how consciousness works for me is up there with, how the universe began or something like that, right? It's one of those really big questions. And we're going to try to gain an appreciation of the field of consciousness studies and some of the answers that philosophers, psychologists, neuroscientists, cognitive scientists, and others have tried to provide when it comes to the question of what consciousness is and how it works. So we're going to try to get a grip on why consciousness is so mysterious, and we're going to be doing this in a multidisciplinary way. We're going to be doing philosophy, obviously. This is a philosophy class, but we're going to be reading about findings from many other disciplines like I just mentioned. Neuroscience, obviously, right? We're going to be encountering a lot of neuroscience stuff that Blackmore discusses. Psychology as well. And what am I doing teaching this stuff, you might ask? Well, my background is kind of like, I kind of wear multiple hats myself. I did my undergrad and my master's degree in philosophy, and it was in grad school that I started getting really interested in philosophy of mind and consciousness and all those things. So I did my master's degree at Carleton in the philosophy department, where I'm teaching you guys, and then I hopped over across the quad and did a PhD in cognitive science. So I try to wear multiple hats. And in this class, sometimes I'll be putting my philosopher hat on, and sometimes I've got to put my science hat on. But that's okay, because you guys can all wear multiple hats as well, right? By doing this in a multidisciplinary way, I don't know, I just find the learning experience is much richer, and you come away with a more comprehensive understanding. So if you're in touch with the conceptual questions, the conceptual problems, the philosophy stuff on the one hand, and then how the scientists are tackling things on the other, you get a really comprehensive understanding of what we're doing here. And you're also gonna be able to practice your critical thinking skills, your writing skills, reading skills. We're going to be doing a lot of thought experiments, which are super fun. I love thought experiments. Gedanken experiment, as the German or technical term, I guess. Although we're not doing physics here, we're doing philosophy. Anyway, this is the text. Susan Blackmore, Consciousness, an Introduction, 2nd edition. And you can find that in the library for free. You don't even have to go to the library. All you have to do is access it using Omni, which you can do on the library website, and it's available online. It's this one right here. I've already got it open, or I thought I did. So I'll just shrink myself here. And what I want to do is tell you a little bit about the author of this book, Susan Blackmore, because she's quite an interesting scholar. Let's see, here we go. So Susan Blackmore is very interesting. She's kind of known nowadays as a sort of freelance writer. She does lecturing. She's a visiting scholar at I forget which university. It says right here in her profile toward the bottom. The really cool thing about Susan Blackmore is she became interested in consciousness because she actually began her career as a parapsychologist. Oh, got a couple questions here. Is it okay if you could post the link to that? I can try. I mean, I think you have to be logged in. If you're logged into the library and then you click this link, then it should arrive. You should get there. There are a couple of these books, but this is the only one available online, at least to my knowledge. So if it's Consciousness, an Introduction, 2nd edition by Susan Blackmore, regardless of what the cover looks like, that's the book you want. So on to the interesting thing. So Susan Blackmore is a really interesting scholar because she actually began her career, her academic career, as a parapsychologist. Now, parapsychology, if you've you may have heard of it. I teach about this in another class that I'll maybe tell you all about sometime. But parapsychology was an attempt to study paranormal phenomena, like psi, right? Like telepathy, stuff like this, X-Men stuff, right? Now, the discipline began in earnest. I think it began in good faith. It was actually, it started in the 30s by Joseph Banks Rhine and his wife, Louisa Rhine. And they were trying to get away from what was called psychical research, spiritualism, which was like very pseudoscientific. They were trying to see if there was anything actually to any of these psi claims. And it was not clear for a long time, because we didn't have the statistical tools that we needed to really run the numbers, that there was nothing really going on. It wasn't clear at the time when Blackmore started her career, and she started doing graduate research in this area. She got a PhD in parapsychology, but as it says in the description, she had conducted many failed experiments on extrasensory perception and psychokinesis. So Susan Blackmore is really interesting to me because she gave it a good, honest try to identify some kind of new and interesting phenomenon. And like an excellent scientist, when she didn't find the evidence, she said, okay, it probably doesn't exist. But in doing this, she developed an interest in consciousness, right? She developed an interest in, for example, Zen meditation. And she also uses cannabis. So, altered states of consciousness. So we're talking meditation, we're talking certain pharmaceuticals. She's become kind of a consciousness scholar. And she's also got another really interesting book you can read. It's called Conversations on Consciousness. In this book, she interviews a lot of leaders in the field of consciousness studies. And it's a great way, if you like, it's a great extra resource for this class because, if you want to know, what does Daniel Dennett say about consciousness? Well, I don't have to read Consciousness Explained, which is 400 pages long. I can go read the interview in Susan Blackmore's book, which is like 10 pages long, and Daniel Dennett will explain it very clearly. And then I can go read Consciousness Explained if I want to, right? So Susan Blackmore is really interesting. And because of this, I also use this book, or rather selections from this book in my philosophy of the paranormal class, which I teach sometimes. So I'm just putting that out there. If anybody's looking for a fun summer class, that will be offered this summer. And if you're interested in skepticism and pseudoscience, it's very fun. Let's see, how are we doing for time? We're doing pretty good. So that is the book. Supplementary materials may be made available as we proceed. For example, the book I just mentioned, don't feel like that's required reading, but it is a helpful extra bonus resource if you're really interested in this stuff. So the course website, of course, you already know is Brightspace. Make sure you're at the landing page on Brightspace, and make sure, as I mentioned before, that you are at the right time slot, and you should be able to find the class. Everything is going to be posted there. Links to lectures will probably go up a few days before the lecture begins. So links to these Zoom meetings and after, of course, I'll post them on YouTube for review purposes. I don't know if I'll continue doing that if we switch back to in-person classes, but we'll see. So also, even though I'm reposting the lectures, even though I post my PowerPoints and the readings are available for free, you still should attend lectures, right? Because the idea is we're going to have discussions. The idea is somebody asks me a question and we get into a really cool discussion about it. That's the idea behind these seminars, right? So you've really got to attend. That's why I'm taking attendance. Now, attendance and participation are going to be worth 10% of your grade in this class. And these are the other assignments that you'll have to do. There are going to be 3 reading responses, a term paper topic proposal, and a final paper, which counts as your final exam. So the weight of all of these are all graded out of 100, but these are how they're weighted, and these are the due dates. So I'll say more about these assignments in a moment, but this is just a quick breakdown of how you'll be evaluated for this class. And this is a schedule of our readings. I will go over this in more detail in a moment. What I want to do first is talk a little bit about the assignments I mentioned. So yeah, lectures. As I mentioned, you know when lectures are. Because of the recent COVID wave, we're going to do everything over Zoom until January 31st. Now, it's really important that you have the latest version of Zoom. Since you're all here, you probably do. Links will be available. If we return to in-person classes, of course, we're going to hold lectures in room 447 of the Torrey building. It's a good room. I've been there. Very nice. Comfy chairs, if I remember correctly. So that'll be nice. And of course, if we go back in person, you're going to want to review all of the important policies on masks, distancing, vaccination. You know, it's probably going to be a lot like it was last semester. You're going to need to regularly self-report how you're feeling. You know, scan the codes when you enter and exit, so that if there's some kind of outbreak, we can do the contact tracing. So just make sure you're familiar with all those policies. And then, of course, if we do not return to class, we're just going to keep doing this. So we'll see. Office hours. All office hours are going to be virtual and by appointment, even if we go back to in-person classes. You'll want to schedule meetings probably by email, but meetings will be held on my Discord server, and you can join that server by following this link. You'll want to download the Discord app on your phone or your computer, whichever device you're going to be using it on. And then once you've logged in and created your account, you can click this link and you'll join my server, which is the Mind and Metal server. I'll explain the title in a moment. But you can join that. You can join that, and yeah. Questions. Yes, Jeremy and Kelsey are asking if there's going to be an option, if an online option, if we go back in person. Yes, there will be. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it. Last semester, for students who weren't able to be physically present, I actually just used the Discord server. I might do that, or I might use Zoom and just kind of have like a mobile cart or something set up in class that's recording me and streaming me. The problem with that is it's difficult when we get into discussion. It's difficult for the students who aren't physically present, but we'll do the best we can with that if we go back in person. So yes, in short, there will be an online option, but I'm going to need to do some fine tuning, right? And as you know, as it says here, don't be shy if you have questions or concerns, you know, about anything. Like, people are asking me questions in the chat. That's awesome. If you got questions about, you know, really official, important stuff, email. If you need to get a hold of me, like, oh no, I forgot the title of that book Josh mentioned, Discord. Right. And Discord is also great for talking amongst yourselves, you know, for working out, you know, the key terms and concepts that you're going to be learning. And I don't think I have to say this, but obviously, you know, this class when we're in person and when we're online, and all of the spaces associated with it. Discord, my YouTube channel, the comment section. Conduct yourselves there the way you would if you were physically present at the university, right? I don't want to see any flame wars. I don't want to see any behavior that violates any of Carleton's policies, right? We're going to treat everybody like human beings, right? We're coming to this class with different backgrounds, different beliefs, and we're talking about consciousness, right? So we're going to talk about things like the soul. Things are going to come up. Life after death is going to come up. God, free will. This stuff is going to come up, right? And we need to be respectful to one another, even though we don't share the same beliefs, probably, right? You can play the devil. We can play the devil's advocate. Usually that's me, right? I think maybe the Zoom wasn't working because I saw that you entered the waiting room. Sorry, I'm talking to Katie here in the chat. Yeah, I think maybe it was an issue with Zoom because I saw you pop up there in the waiting room once we had already started. But for the previous comment from Kelsey, yeah, no, it's fine to play the devil's advocate, but you just need to do so in a way that what you're talking about, is the question itself and not, maybe the person associated with it, right? So, so what's an example? Maybe we're talking about, maybe we're talking about the survival of the soul surviving death, right? Maybe we're talking about that. I'm not going to, do any kind of like ad hominem stuff, obviously, like, oh, that's silly. But I am probably going to say things like, okay, but how would we know, like, can you tell me? If you can't, should we believe in this sort of thing, right? Like, this is the way we want to do it, right? We want to be respectful. No problem, Katie. As I was saying earlier, like, my online lectures are recorded and posted to YouTube, so you can go and catch the bits that you missed. So it's all good. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is that this class is supposed to be, it's a safe space, whether we're online or in person. And what that means is, everybody should feel safe here. We're not going to harm one another with our discussion, right? We're not going to do that. But it's also a safe space to discuss ideas that may be a little tough to think about, difficult questions, right? We're not going to do this in a provocative way. We're going to do this in good faith to try to understand more stuff, okay? So that's what I mean. So just saying. As I've already stated, you wanted to attend the class regularly. Starting next week, I'll take attendance. I'll just kind of go through with the beginning and check everybody's names off. It's very easy to do this with Zoom to see who's here. And if we return to in-person classes, we'll be doing something similar. Definitely keep up with the readings. They're not difficult. They're not like long. They're not very wordy and verbose. But some of the ideas can be a bit perplexing, as we'll discuss in a moment. So definitely keep up with them. And if you have any questions about them, let me know or talk to one another on Discord. And over the course of this class, you'll have to complete 3 different reading responses. Now, each of these are worth 10% of your grade. They should be 400 or 500 words in length. You've got to cite everything properly. You've got to write clearly. What you need to do, and I'll say more about this before the first one is due, is choose an interesting idea from the book or the lectures and do some critical analysis, critically engage with it, right? Say, for example, we talk about the hard problem of consciousness next time. I'll be bringing that up. And we'll be talking about that in the next couple of weeks. And you might think, oh, there is no hard problem of consciousness, right? You could tell me about that. Why do you think that in your in your critical response. Make sure you're submitting them in doc format. PDF is also acceptable in a pinch, but it's not easy to open any other type of file. So doc or PDF is the preferred format. You'll also have to do a topic proposal for your final paper, and I'll explain how to do this in a separate video. It's not going to be a video lecture, or not part of the regular schedule of video lectures. Rather, I'll just make a video about how to write an essay and an essay topic proposal for this class, and I'll put it on my YouTube channel. Students will have to watch that in their own time. But basically, in 500 to 600 words, you'll need to tell me what your topic is going to be. So your area of interest or your topic. You got to give me a thesis statement or a research question, and then a plan of attack, or like an outline. How do you see your paper going, right? And again, I'll explain all of this in a lot more detail. And that'll be due on March 11 on Brightspace. The term paper itself serves as your final exam. It's worth 40% of your final grade. I think you should aim for 1,250 to 1,500 words. And it's due on the last day of the exam period, which is April 28th. And again, I will post instructions. Excuse me. I will post instructions to my YouTube channel, which you can reach by following this link. It's also in the helpful materials module on Brightspace. And also in that module, you'll find templates. You'll find templates for your topic proposal and for your reading responses. So you can just kind of go in, remove the instructions, and then fill in the blank. I get some of these assignments sometimes where students just write their stuff below the instructions and leave the instructions in, and it looks really funny. So don't, take the instructions out. Yeah, so I'll say more about how to do that, all of that stuff. But yeah, the templates are there. Join the Discord server. If you want, subscribe to the YouTube channel, but it's not like a real channel, right? So you don't have to like and subscribe and do all that weird stuff. It's just where all the learning material will be. So assignment deferral policy. If anything comes up, just contact me, right? If you're sick, if you're bereaved, if you're stuck somewhere, whatever, if you've got an extracurricular activity, I tend to be pretty flexible with this stuff. Just let me know before the due date, or as soon as you can after the due date. I left this in figuring that we'd be back in person right away, electronic devices in the classroom. I guess we only have to worry about this if we go back to in-person learning. But if we do, make sure you're using your devices for learning and not as distractions, right? And there's other policies you might want to review here on the final page. Do I have a preferred style of citation? No. I mean, I myself use APA a lot, and I think APA is quite easy to work with. So I encourage people to do that. But if you're more familiar with, say, like MLA or Chicago or something, then that's fine too. There's actually a link to Purdue University's online writing lab, or OWL, in the helpful materials module, and it contains all the citation guides. So everything you need to know is there. You just have to choose your citation style and use it, and use it consistently, right? Like, don't switch styles mid assignment. Otherwise, I don't care. Deferrals for final exam. Take a look at this in case you we're getting into the exam period and you might become ill. This is really good to know about. If you're sick and you can't finish your exam, deferred exam, right? Read the guidelines on plagiarism. Do not commit plagiarism. It's like really easy to catch people, and it's really disappointing when you find it, because it's just so easy not to do it, right? So don't plagiarize anything. I don't think any of you will, but every once in a while I catch somebody, and it's just really disappointing more than anything. So make sure you don't do it, and you can read all about it and how to avoid it by following this link, or sorry, this link. There's also lots of different kinds of academic accommodation you may want to be aware of. For example, pregnancy or religious obligation, right? If you're expecting, or if, say, a due date falls on a significant religious holiday, something like that, you can let me know and we'll work out some accommodations for your assignment. Of course, there's accommodations for students with disabilities. So if you have any kind of disability, whether that's like a learning disability, mental or physical health conditions, you want to contact the Paul Menton Center, and they work out academic accommodations specifically for students in this situation. And they'll get you all set up so that if you need like extra time on assignments, or if you need notes or extra stuff, they get you all set up. So definitely a great resource. Should definitely read Carleton's sexual violence policy. You know, like it's a big thing. You hear every once in a while on the news of an instance of sexual violence on campus, and it's really disturbing and disheartening. As I said, my class is a safe space, and the university should be a safe space. So when we're all physically present again, you know, we don't want anything. We don't want sexual violence on campus or amongst students off campus. So do read that policy as well. And accommodation for student activities, you know, I mean, we're not doing a whole lot, any of us right now, but you know, if things start opening up again and you've got to go to the big game, you got to play in a sports game, or you got chess club or a musical performance or anything like that that conflicts with an assignment, let me know, and we can work out some accommodation for your activity. And these are all the important dates and deadlines, how to get a hold of important people, contact the department. The department and registrar's office are important if you're talking about academic stuff, as is the academic advising center. They can kind of provide advice on class selection, getting better grades, stuff like that. Writing service is really important. You know, in university, especially in a philosophy class, I mean, we use language to communicate our thoughts to others. So the language in your assignments needs to be on point, right? And I realize that, you know, not everybody's an excellent writer, and maybe English isn't your first language, or you just don't do a lot of writing. That's fine. If you need help with writing services is the place to contact. They can help you. I offer helpful feedback when I'm grading assignments with respect to writing, spelling, grammar, and stuff. But that's not what I'm mainly supposed to be doing. So I will point out when things go wrong, but you'll have to learn how to fix them yourself, right? Like if you've got like lots of sentence fragments, I'll point them out. And then you'll have to go look, wait, what is a sentence fragment again? And look it up, and, oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. And then, you know, but if you're really having trouble, writing services is the place to go. And then, of course, the library. Well, you want the library website because that's how you access the textbook. So that's it for the course outline. Let's minimize this and let's go back to the contents of the textbook. So I'll just go over what we'll be covering quickly, and then we can wrap it up and I can answer any questions anybody might have. So the book is divided into these sections with 3 chapters each, and we're not going to make it through the whole book. That's okay. But we're basically going to be doing 1 chapter a week so that we don't get overwhelmed and bogged down. The first chapter, which we'll do next time, is what's the problem? Why is consciousness so mysterious, right? And this is where we introduce the hard and easy problems of consciousness. Then we move on to what it's like to be, where we talk about subjectivity. And subjectivity is really why consciousness is so mysterious, as I said before. When we study things, say with science, we're studying them objectively, but consciousness is subjective, right? So how do we study it? We can study what's going on in the brain. We can study behavior, right? We can do all that. That's all objective. But how do I get in and study the subjective part? That's difficult. So that's what we'll be talking about then. And then we're going to move on and talk about conscious and unconscious action. I mean, we're talking about consciousness, so we got to talk about the unconscious. And when we talk about these two, I guess, areas of the mind or types of cognition or types of consciousness, we've got to tie them to action, because there are so many things that we're doing all the time, that we're not conscious of. Think about like when you're driving, right? This is the classic example. If you're driving your car and you're on a familiar route somewhere, you put the radio on or stream some music and you're driving, all of a sudden you're home, right? Where did the time go, right? Were you conscious or unconscious? Like, it's kind of weird, right? You were conscious of some things, maybe. You were thinking of stuff like, oh, I have to write that philosophy paper, doop-a-doop-a-doo. But everything else, the directions, signal, the way home, it's all automatic. Is that unconscious, right? So this is very interesting because conscious and unconscious action kind of relates to not only consciousness, but also free will. So this is fun. Then in section 2, we talk about the world. So we talk about the theater of the mind. This is where we introduce the Cartesian theater, a way of understanding consciousness, which is very intuitive and almost certainly the wrong way to try and understand consciousness, right? The theater of the mind. Is there some place in the mind where it all comes together, where consciousness happens, like a stage in a theater or a screen in at the movies or your television at home? Is that where consciousness is? And you're the self just sitting back in a chair watching it? That's the Cartesian theater. And it's a terrible way to think about consciousness because it leads to an infinite regress, which we'll talk about when the time comes, right? Then we'll talk about attention and timing. Attention is obviously very important when it comes to consciousness, right? What is attention? Well, it's when we attend to things, like this coffee cup, right? I can attend to it right now. Look at that coffee cup right there. I'm having a conscious experience of it. And I can take a sip and I can like attend to the flavors of coffee. Attention is important. Attention is kind of like how we direct our consciousness. And chapter 6, the grand illusion, is really cool because this is where we start talking about the illusory nature of conscious experience, right? It feels like I'm having a unified experience of the world, right? From moment to moment, I'm having a rich, detailed, phenomenological experience of the world right now. But is that true? Is that really true? What about things like change blindness or inattentional blindness? What about my foveal blind spot? We have a foveal blind spot in each eye, a hole in our visual field where the optic nerve, leaves the back of the eye and goes to the occipital lobe, which is in the back of the brain. So there's a hole there where there are no rods or cones, no receptors. But you don't see two holes in your visual field all the time. What's going on there? Is your brain filling it in? I don't know. Could be. Or how about color vision? We have rods and cones, right, in our eyes. Some detect edges, some detect contrast, some detect color. The color detectors in our eyes are near the center of our iris or whatever there on the back of the eye. We only detect black and white on the periphery. When you look around the room, is it black and white on the periphery of your vision and in color in here? No. So what's going on? Are you seeing the world the way it really is? No, your brain is constructing an experience of the world for you, almost like a virtual reality, but not like a Cartesian theater. So, Then in section 3, egos, bundles, and multiple selves. Here's where we talk about the nature of the self. That's what section 3 is all about. It's called the self. So we'll talk about ego theory, the idea that the self is like a unified self, or bundle theory, that the self is an illusion, and multiple selves. What do different mental illnesses tell us about the self, right? Like you might be thinking of something like dissociative identity disorder, right? So-called multiple personalities. What does that tell us about the self, right? More theories of self in chapter 8, and back to agency and free will. Is there a self? Maybe. Is the self the initiator of action? Am I the author of my own actions? Maybe, maybe not. So yeah, I told you big questions would be coming up here. Here we're talking about whether we have free will, right? When we're talking about the self, we're talking about what some people would call the soul, right? So very interesting questions. And finally, we'll talk a little bit about the brain. I'm not sure if we'll do this whole section. Maybe we'll make room for some kind of interesting special topic instead, depending on what people would like to do. But section 4 is all about the brain. I definitely want to do chapter 10, the neural correlates of consciousness, because that's really interesting. But once we get up to here, we'll kind of see where we're at, and maybe we'll sort of shift track and do something else that's interesting. So we will see. The rest of the book, we're not going to have a chance to cover. You can see that there's a lot, right? Artificial consciousness. Pretty cool. Maybe we'll do something from there if we don't do all of the brain. Borderlands, we've got the paranormal, imagination, altered states, drugs and altered states, sleep, dreams, hypnotic states, lots of cool stuff. First person approaches, where we talk about mindfulness and meditation, right? So there's a lot there that we could maybe pick from if we wanted to change things up. Or if you want to go ahead and read on your own for an essay or just for fun, this is all there, right? It's all for free. You can access this from the library. So now for next class, please read chapter 1, which is about the problem. What are the problems we're dealing with here? Also read the introduction. The introduction just kind of lays out the book, kind of explains Blackmore's approach at writing it. But it also cautions about the perplexity that we're going to encounter. And this is the kind of one last thing I wanted to emphasize. This is one of those classes that will confuse you, not because the material is especially difficult, but because you're probably going to be thinking about some things in ways that you're not used to thinking about them. So Blackmore says in the introduction that you need to welcome perplexity, right? The perplexity that you're going to experience in this class, hopefully, is what's going to stir you to actually, think hard and come up with some kind of answers to the questions that we'll be considering here. So don't be afraid of the perplexity. You're going to encounter mysterious things here. You're going to feel confusion, and that's great. That's normal. That's what we want. It's kind of like Socrates back in the day, right? Socrates asking all his questions and confusing everybody. Well, it's in that confusion that you can come to have knowledge. And that's kind of what this class is going to be like. And as I said earlier, don't shy away from difficult questions. There are going to be perplexing questions. What is the self? I feel like I'm a unified self, but I might not be. It could be an illusion. That's a perplexing question. But there are also difficult questions like, is there a soul? We're talking about consciousness. Is that the soul? Do I have a soul? And if I do, what does that mean? Right? So there are perplexing questions and there are difficult questions. Difficult depending on what you already believe. But remember, we're going to talk about different ideas, but we're going to be nice and respectful and safe about it. Are we going to review the Socratic method for class discussions? I mean, maybe. We don't really need to I mean, I try to use that sort of dialectical style just anyway, right? Like Socrates thought the best way to get, I mean, firstly, he thinks of knowledge as recollection, learning as recollection, not actually learning, which has to do with, all the transmigration of the soul and all that, right? So Socrates is saying, like, I'm not actually getting you to learn anything, I'm getting you to birth ideas that are already there, right? Like, I'm like a midwife, and the idea is the baby, and I just have to help you bring it into the world to get the idea out, right? So he does that by asking questions. Now I will ask questions, right? So if you say something like oh, but I see that this well, what's an example? This coffee mug is a certain color, right? So that's what it really looks like. Well, I might say, like, but what does really looks like mean? Explain it to me, and we'll get to, when we kind of bottom out at confusion, that's when we have to re-examine what we think about things. So that's kind of how we'll be doing it here. For the term paper, yes, absolutely. You can pick a topic from a chapter we don't cover. So like if you wanted to talk about meditation or altered states or minds and machines, and we're not reading those chapters, absolutely you can cover it. And I'll be able to give you lots of feedback on your proposal so that you're in a good position to go and write the paper, right? That's all I can think of for now. I guess, well, I'll throw the ball over to everyone else. Does anyone have any other questions before we wrap up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. It's regarding with this card. Sorry, it's just that I'm new with all the Carleton system. So could you please explain to me what is a discard or
Oh, okay,
Discord?
yeah.
Discord, sorry.
Discord, yeah, Discord.
Yeah.
So Discord is it's a sort of online chat application, and if you download the app onto your computer and create a username, what it does is allow you to join different sort of like online communities, like different chat rooms. And I have one for my students where I have my different classes set up and my students can come in and talk amongst themselves. So I'll spell it here. So the Discord Inc. is where you want to download the app from. And then just create an account. And then once that's done, if you click the link in the course outline, it's also on CU Learn, Brightspace. If you click that link, then it will take you to my server, my community where my different students are. And I've even got it broken up so that there's like a little thread for this class that you can go into so that people don't get confused. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Welcome. All right. Are there any other questions before we wrap it up? Looks like that's it. Nothing else in the chat. All right. Well, I suppose we'll wrap things up for today. Hopefully this has been nice and comprehensive, and everybody kind of knows what they've gotten themselves into. And next time we will cover chapter 1. We won't be covering the intro, but do read the intro and then read chapter 1 in Blackmore, and we will cover all of chapter 1 next time. It's a short chapter and it's a fun chapter. So I'll see you all next time. Bye for now, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Good day.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Oh, somebody just showed up. Excellent. Okay, well, good thing that we're posting everything on YouTube. Well, anyway, stop sharing my screen. All right. Bye, everyone. And I will see you next time. Take care.